My wife is an expert on true crime. She watches it almost every night. She has been to the Murdaugh trial. I'm going to say she's been in there 4 days now, and she's worked her way from back right to breathing down the defendant's neck yesterday. Yeah. She literally could have reached out and stroked the back of his hair if she had wanted to.
She must know the roadies.
Oh, are you kidding? She knows
get up there.
All the bailiffs. Also, how's Smokey doing, Sweet Pea? I know he's one of the bailiffs that you like a lot.
It was really hard to say goodbye to Smokey yesterday. We had a big, after court, we just stayed in front of the courthouse and hugged all the bailiffs, got pictures with all of them, and just had to say our farewells. It was really, really hard. And they were like, "Oh, can't you come back?" And we said, "No, we have jobs." But...
Jobs and families that you had to.
Oh, yeah.
That you had to come back to, of course. And you said now, if the closing arguments, I guess, are late today, maybe tomorrow. I know the jury is going out to see the crime scene today.
Yes.
Could you go back to try and time a verdict? Is it possible? Friday?
It is possible, and I'm going to be on standby to see if they, with OJ, they said the day before, okay, we're going to have the verdict tomorrow morning or whatever time. So you have, a little bit of notice. So if we have that, we're definitely going to go back for the verdict if it's on Friday or Monday, because both of us can go back for that. My cousin Stephanie,
Okay.
That's exciting. Do you anticipate, Ashley, when the verdict is read, regardless if you're there, I hope you're there for it, gasps from the courtroom?
I do expect that. I think the judge will be very clear that there is to be no reaction.
No outburst. Yeah.
No outbursts. And if we get the same seats that we got yesterday, I just can't even imagine what that would be like to be there for the verdict.
You will be a meme.
Oh, you will be. I think you already are.
I think I am.
Your sister sent me something. There was some damaging testimony to Mr. Murdaugh yesterday.
A former partner? That one, or this
maybe.
forensics?
I don't know what it was, but your sister sent me something yesterday that said she's become Twitter famous, and they have Murdaugh with his hands on his head, and they've split, and then there's the A-Train with a concerned look on her face. That's the shot.
Wow.
I think they think you're part of the family or something.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, I really think we are 2 more visits away from you being rumored his new love interest.
The jailhouse love interest.
You think?
Would that be true? Is it possible?
Yeah, please.
I really do, because you're right there.
Right there.
A few more visits, they're going to be like, "Who is she?"
The mystery woman.
It's Inside Edition. This is Inside Edition written all over it. Who is this mystery woman?
It's very possible. I can
Just
see
think,
it.
hey, if he's found guilty, Moselle will be up for sale.
You're right.
If you want to live in the low country.
Compound?
That sounds just like what I've been looking for.
Moselle. What's the other place called?
Well, she'll know. The A-Train knows all these areas.
And get this, she's married. We found her disgraced husband outside of this gym. No comment.
He's holding a pickleball paddle in front of his face.
She's married to this weirdo. That's right. Now, okay.
Yes.
Tell us what happened yesterday. Fireworks in the court yesterday. Some real interesting testimony from what I read. What can you tell us?
Oh, yes. I can't even tell you the tension in the courtroom when his former law partner was recalled to the stand and asked questions. And Dick Harpootlian, the lead defense attorney, was trying to get him fired up to say how angry he was at Alec for stealing his money, and that's why he was there testifying for the prosecution. And the more he asked him, the redder the man's face got, and the more he kept saying, "I'm not angry at him. I've put all of that aside. I have no feelings toward him." And he just got angrier and angrier. I mean, his face showed that he was angrier and angrier, which was exactly what Dick Harpootlian wanted to show, was how fired up and that he had a motivation to testify against Alec and punish him, so to speak. So that, I mean, we were all on the edges of our seats, and the jury was perked for that, definitely.
Oh, really?
Huh, so you think that might have been a point for the defense?
I do think it was a point for the defense. I think Harpootlian acts like this dodgering old coot who doesn't know what he's doing, and that is completely, in my opinion, a strategy. He knows exactly what he's doing.
The Dave Aiken strategy.
That's right.
Act like a bumbling old coot and then come through when you least expect him, huh?
That's right. You know how many situations it gets you out of and gets you into.
Absolutely right.
Right where you want to be.
He played the Aiken. It's known in legal terms as the Aiken.
The Aiken defense. The Aiken ploy.
That's right.
Who else from the family is there besides Buster, Ashley? Can you tell, or do you even know?
Oh, I know, because we were behind them the first couple of days. And so usually who's there is who's been there every day is his older sister, Lynn.
Oh.
And sometimes she'll bring her children with her, and then and they're grown children. And then John Marvin is always there, and most days Randy is there. That's another brother. And
John Marvin gave good testimony 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let me ask you this, A-Train. We want to get back to yesterday's testimony because there was more to it. But 2 days ago, when John Marvin, his brother, testified, our P1 listener Tyler has pointed out we did not get your comments on this. He had some very graphic testimony about driving Alec Murdaugh to some sort of a rehab facility.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And during the drive, the man...
There was an incident.
Can you explain? Can you say what he said?
You know I don't want to talk about this, but I guess I will for my on-the-spot reporting. He messed his pants, for lack of a better way to say it. And
the defendant.
You know,
Yes,
the defendant, yes.
Yeah, see, we had stopped at a Stuckey's for one of those tacos in a bag where you mix the chips. And it didn't sit right with him.
You know what he said? He said he had severe diarrhea and messed himself. And then he said, and I'm not talking about at a convenience store or a rest stop. I'm talking about the back seat of my vehicle with his pants on.
So for the record, he did not make it to the toilet. Yes, that's correct.
And then they cut all cameras toward Murdaugh. Of course, he was like,
You mean out of this whole trial, that's the most embarrassing part for him?
No, here's why I think it's not. Here's why I think it's not embarrassing for him. I think he told his brother to say that because it points to opioid addiction, and so he's trying to say he was going through withdrawal, and that's why I think he's not embarrassed by that at all. He wants the world to hear that so they see how horrifying this detoxification process was.
Goodness. And of course, she's using that, you think, as a shield for why he lied and lied and lied so many times. And all of those
that's
things.
exactly.
You know, we also actually had a question, too, about the brother's testimony 2 days ago. And can you tell us why he was the one, quote unquote, cleaning up the crime scene?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yes. So it was the next day, a day after the murders, and he cleared with his best friend works for law enforcement. Surprise, surprise. And he called him to say, has the crime scene been cleared? I want to go down there. He said he wanted to go down just to see where Paul and Maggie were killed and to just kind of have a moment by himself down there. So that's why he headed down there. He got permission to go down there, that it had been cleared and that they had everything that they needed. Okay. So he went down there by himself and he looked in the feed room where Paul was killed, and it was a horrible mess of blood and biological material and frankly some body parts. It was just awful. And so he said, I have to, for Paul, he was very, very close to Paul. Paul worked for him and he was very close to him. And he said, I have to clean this up. And so he got some supplies and he started cleaning. And as you may or may not have heard from his testimony, he cleaned up, part of his brain and his skull. And he was just so upset. But what I took from that to me was really interesting was that he said he made a promise to Paul right then and there that he would find who did this. And I keep going back to that in my head thinking, now who do you think did this? And you made this promise to him, but the evidence is the evidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not as scandalous as it might have sounded. So the police did their work.
But wouldn't you think the whole area would be cleared entirely before anyone was allowed down there? I mean,
certainly family.
He said no uncle, no father should ever see anything like that. And he's right. That is awful.
Yes, but the piece that you may not realize is that law partners and friends and family were all traipsing all over where the bodies were the night of the murders. Alec called all of them right away and said, get here fast. And there were probably 20 people out there seeing. I mean, his law partner who testified yesterday said, I saw things that haven't even been talked about here in court. I saw Paul and Maggie on the ground. It was awful. And so they were traipsing around this area. Now, it was cordoned off with crime scene tape, but they were down there. And then no one secured the house. They didn't consider it part of the crime scene. So law enforcement told them about 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. after the murders had happened at 8:49, but they told them to go up to the house. And so then they sent them all there so that everyone could kind of contaminate that area too.
Yeah. Man, that's bad. Well, he's cronies.
That's cronyism.
It's cronyism with all the law partners and the police and everything all in bed
and some
together.
of them have badges. He had a badge. He carried from time to time.
We saw the Netflix documentary.
Yeah.
We know that.
He had blue lights on his car.
Yeah.
Who did?
Murdaugh.
Alex.
Yeah.
The defendant.
Yeah, he did. He was that involved with the police, even though he had no real official capacity.
Well, he was that involved, but he lied on the stand and said that he had asked the sheriff, could he put blue lights on his car? Yesterday, they brought the sheriff in as a rebuttal witness to say, he never asked me that.
He just did it. Now, what other testimony yesterday? We've seen some guys struggling with a gun coming through a door. What was all that?
Oh, my gosh. That was so incredible. Well, when we filed...
Excuse me, Chris Tibbs rubbing his nipples. I know.
Do we need a recess?
Yeah.
That's a big old long gun.
Do you need a moment? Yeah, boy, a couple of guns. Yeah. So what was that about?
Well, before the cameras came on or court even started, we saw the Attorney General, the actual Attorney General, Alan Wilson, who did some of the questioning yesterday. That was the first time I had seen him do the questioning. And he was holding up the gun, and they were like pointing it to the gallery. And there were only a few of us in there at that time, but it was really surreal to watch him pointing that long gun right at us. But they got into their showing. The prosecution recalled their crime scene reconstructionist, who, by the way, I got a photo with yesterday afternoon.
Congratulations.
But anyway, thank you. So they recalled him to refute what the defense's crime scene reconstructionist had said. So they were reenacting what the defense had said. His expert had said that the shooter shot Paul first from outside the feed room, then went past him and went into the feed room to shoot him from behind, which makes absolutely no sense.
Right. Wouldn't do that. Right. Okay.
Of course not.
So which scenario seems more plausible to you, Ashley?
Out of what, the prosecution or the defense?
Yes.
The prosecution scenario definitely seems more plausible, just more likely what happened. And I find that the prosecution's witnesses on that are more credible. I've just, having watched it from the beginning and seen their original testimony and their reply, the medical examiner on there was less confident than she was before, but I think Dick Harpootlian was trying to rattle her, and she let him get to her yesterday. But it was just absolutely incredible to watch all this unfold and just to feel the energy in the courtroom. And the jury, I got the sense yesterday, they knew it was coming to an end, and they're relieved at that. And I think and when the judge gave them their instructions for going to the crime scene, they were definitely listening to him. It gave me hope that they really are taking this very seriously, because they were leaned forward in their chairs, listening to his instructions and what they can and can't do. They're not allowed to speak at all. When they are on the bus, when they're at the property, they're not allowed to speak to anyone. They can't ask any questions. They can't talk to each other. They have to be completely silent. And he swore, the bailiffs, they had to take an oath saying that they would not allow them to speak and they would not speak to each other. So it has to be completely silent on the bus and at the property. And the judge will be at the property to oversee it.
Interesting.
Do you know, Ashley, because obviously this doesn't happen with most cases, is someone going to guide them through the crime scene, or are they just going to walk through it?
No. The judge explained they will be, the property has to be secured. I thought this was interesting. They have to clear the airspace because they can't have drones. They can't have any cameras of any kind. They have to close the road off so that people can't be lining up along the road. And I feel bad for the people who live. It's a very long road. Obviously, I've been out there. It's a really long road, and I don't know how they're going to close all of it off. But anyway, they're just going to turn the jurors loose, and they're going to meander about the property and again, they have to be completely silent.
So it's self-guided, essentially.
Interesting.
It is.
Well, Biggie, a comment.
Will there be a lunch?
Biggie wants to know.
Yes.
Box lunch
Yes.
on the bus.
Box lunch on the bus. Go over to Fat Jack's.
There will be a lunch.
Yeah.
There will be a lunch.
I'm
Yes.
vegan.
Trust me, nobody on that jury is vegan.
Ain't no vegan down there.
Ain't nobody in that
Objection.
county. No county. Nobody in that county's vegan.
They look at you crooked if you're
All
vegan.
right. That's right. Okay, is there anything to add? Do you still think, you told us earlier from everything, you think hung jury, or do you think they convict him?
I think hung jury, so I don't think there will be a verdict for us to drive back for. I think they'll keep coming back and the judge will send them back and then it'll ultimately result in a hung jury. I do have a couple of things that I saw yesterday that I don't know what the camera caught and what it didn't. Would you like me to share those?
Of course.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay. So since we were so close to Alec, and I mean, I could see his individual eyebrow hairs. Like that's how close we were when he would turn to the side.
Yes.
He was clicking a pen that was very loud from where we were sitting. I don't know who could hear it besides us, but the bailiff tapped his bodyguard on the shoulder and said, "You have to remove that pen." And so I asked her later, why did she remove it, because it was so loud or because it was a weapon? And she said, "Oh, that's a weapon." She said, "You want him to turn around and stab you right in the neck? Because we're that close."
Could he?
Well, not fatally.
Exactly. Not
Did you, surely you asked for the pen.
Could he sign the pen? I don't know how you do that.
I don't know how you even
Can he
do
use
that.
a different pen to sign that pen? No, that's the great insight that you've given us that the cameras don't catch. What more?
Wow.
What else?
Also, I don't know if the cameras caught this either because I don't know what they're showing when, but before court started, right before the lunch break, the judge said that an email had arrived and that he had just gotten this and he needed to speak with the attorneys about it, and that he gave them copies of the email. And when they turned around to face the gallery after conferring with him at the bench, the defense was gleeful and the prosecution looked crestfallen. And we don't know what the email was. I've heard stories about what it is, but I don't want to speculate just yet. But it was definitely, in my opinion, something positive for the defense.
It appears to be Calvin peeing on something. This was popular in the late 90s on many cars. NASCAR fans really embraced it with their hated drivers. See, here's Calvin. That's his pee. And that's your theory.
And is that a Chevrolet logo? It is.
It looks like a 24, sir.
Yeah.
Wow. What a report, Sweet Pea. You're a better.
You're not going to get this on court TV.
You don't get it. This is the inside scoop that you don't get anywhere else. That's exactly right.
I hope you get to go back down, Ashley. I do.
Oh, thank you.
Easy, Dave.
Oh, let her go.
Easy. But let me ask you this. If it's a hung jury, do they do it again in 6 months?
Oh, yeah. Guess what? If they do it again, I've already arranged a VRBO house that I'm going to rent. I've got the whole thing set up if they do a retrial. I've got all my people in place. I've got everything ready.
There it is.
I was going to say, I hope you're a Hampton Inn Rewards member.
Really?
You've earned a free night.